When Tom stepped out, towel around his waist, he found Sarah sitting on their bed, his phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. "Who is she?" Sarah's voice was quiet, but it cut through him like a blade. He stammered, tried to lie, but the truth spilled out. He confessed to the affair to Mia. 2 months of betrayal. Sarah didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just looked at him, her eyes hollow, and said, "How could you do this to us?" To the kids? That was worse than any outburst. Tom felt the weight of his choices crush him.
In a quiet suburb of Maplewood, Tom lived what seemed like a perfect life. He was a 38-year-old accountant, married to Sarah, his high school sweetheart, for 15 years. They had 2 kids, Emma, 12, and Lucas, 8, who filled their home with laughter and the occasional squabble over video game controllers. From the outside, their life was a postcard, a cozy house, family dinners, and weekend soccer games. But beneath the surface, Tom was restless. It started innocently enough. A new colleague, Mia, joined his firm. She was sharp, charismatic, and had a way of making Tom feel seen in a way he hadn't in years. Sarah was busy juggling her part-time job and the kids' schedules, and their marriage had settled into a comfortable but predictable rhythm. Conversations with Mia, though, were electric. Late nights at the office turned into drinks, then texts, then stolen moments. Tom told himself it was harmless, a distraction, but it wasn't. One evening, after a work dinner that stretched too long, Tom and Mia crossed a line. Guilt hit him like a freight train, but the thrill kept him coming back. For months, he juggled his double-life kisses goodnight to Emma and Lucas, date nights with Sarah, and secret meetups with Mia. He convinced himself he could keep it all separate, that no one would get hurt, but lies have a way of unraveling. Sarah noticed Tom's late nights, his guarded phone, the way he'd zone out during dinner. One night, while Tom was in the shower, a text from Mia lit up his phone. Sarah, curious, glanced at it. Her world shattered. The message was brief but damning. "Miss you already. Same time tomorrow."
When Tom stepped out, towel around his waist, he found Sarah sitting on their bed, his phone in her hand, tears streaming down her face. "Who is she?" Sarah's voice was quiet, but it cut through him like a blade. He stammered, tried to lie, but the truth spilled out. He confessed to the affair to Mia. 2 months of betrayal. Sarah didn't scream. She didn't throw things. She just looked at him, her eyes hollow, and said, "How could you do this to us?" To the kids? That was worse than any outburst. Tom felt the weight of his choices crush him. The aftermath was brutal. Sarah asked him to leave, and he moved into a small apartment across town. The kids were confused, angry. Emma stopped talking to him, her silence louder than any argument. Lucas asked, "Dad, why aren't you home?" And Tom had no good answer. Sarah, meanwhile, grappled with her pain while trying to keep life stable for the kids. She didn't badmouth Tom to them, though she wanted to. She wanted them to have their father, even if she couldn't trust him anymore. Tom tried to fix things. He ended things with Mia, who was hurt but unsurprised. She'd known he was married. I begged Sarah for forgiveness, promising to change, but trust, once broken, doesn't mend easily. Sarah wasn't sure she could ever look at him the same way. The kids, caught in the middle, struggled with their own hurt. Emma's grades slipped, and Lucas started acting out at school. Months passed. Tom saw the kids on weekends, but the warmth was gone. He'd sit in his empty apartment, replaying every choice that led him there. He realized the affair wasn't about Mia or even Sarah. It was about his own inability to face his restlessness, to talk to his wife, to choose his family over fleeting excitement. Sarah, meanwhile, started finding her footing. She leaned on friends, took up painting again, and began to imagine a life where she didn't need Tom to feel whole. She hadn't decided if she'd divorce him or try to rebuild, but she knew she deserved better. The kids were slowly healing too, though the scars would linger. Tom was learning, painfully, that love isn't just a feeling, it's a series of choices. And one bad one could cost him everything he had taken for granted. After Tom's affair with Mia came to light, the rift between him and Sarah seemed insurmountable. seeing Emma and Lucas only on weekends. Each visit a reminder of the family he'd jeopardized. Sarah, meanwhile, was navigating her pain while keeping life steady for the kids. But beneath her hurt and Tom's guilt, a flicker of their old love remained, a spark they both hesitated to acknowledge. Tom threw himself into change. He started therapy, not just to win Sarah back, but to understand why he'd strayed. He learned to face his restlessness, his fear of stagnation, and the insecurities he'd buried under routine. He wrote Sarah letters not to beg, but to share what he was learning about himself. He didn't expect her to read them, but she did quietly, late at night, when the kids were asleep. Sarah, too, was rediscovering herself. Painting became her refuge, her canvases alive with bold colors that mirrored her growing strength. She joined a support group where she met other women who'd faced betrayal, and their stories helped her feel less alone. Yet, when Emma asked if Daddy would ever come home, Sarah realized she wasn't ready to close that door completely. She missed the Tom she'd fallen in love with, the one who'd made her laugh until her sides hurt, who'd built blanket forts with the kids on rainy days. One evening, 6 months after the truth came out, Sarah invited Tom over to talk. The kids were at a sleepover, and the house felt too quiet. Sitting at their old kitchen table, Sarah spoke first. "I don't trust you," she said plainly, "but I don't hate you either. I want to know if we can find a way back." Tom didn't make promises he couldn't keep. Instead, he told her about his therapy, his regrets, and how he was working to be a better man not just for her, but for himself and the kids. They started small. Couples counseling became a weekly ritual, where they learned to communicate in ways they hadn't in years. Tom listened without defensiveness. Sarah shared her fears without holding back. It wasn't easy. Some sessions ended in tears or silence, but they kept showing up. For the kids, they kept things steady, but Emma and Lucas noticed their parents' softer glances. The way Tom lingered after dropping them off. One breakthrough came unexpectedly. During a family picnic, Lucas tripped while chasing a soccer ball, scraping his knee. Tom and Sarah instinctively rushed to him, their hands brushing as they comforted him. For a moment, they were a team again, and Emma, watching, smiled for the first time in months. That night, Sarah asked Tom to stay for dinner. They cooked together, laughing awkwardly when they bumped elbows, and it felt like a glimpse of the past, but better because it was honest. Over time, trust grew like a fragile plant. Tom moved back home a year later, sleeping in the guest room at first. They took it slow, rebuilding not just their marriage, but a new kind of partnership. Sarah set boundaries. Tom respected them. They planned date nights, rediscovered shared passions, and made time to really talk about their dreams and fears. Emma and Lucas, sensing the shift, started to heal too. Emma began confiding in Tom again, and Lucas's bedtime stories with Dad became sacred. 2 years after the affair, Sarah and Tom renewed their vows in a small backyard ceremony. Just them, the kids, and a few close friends. It wasn't a grand gesture, but a quiet promise to choose each other every day. As they danced under string lights, Emma and Lucas giggling nearby, Sarah whispered to Tom, "We're not perfect, but we're us." Tom kissed her forehead, grateful for the second chance he'd almost lost.